Welcome. This video is titled Saturn Goes Retrograde in Aries for July 13. So you may have seen that I haven't posted a video in a while, but here I am gonna make a little update on what this Saturn retrograde cycle actually means. So if you've been following my posts, my articles, my videos on my YouTube channel, then you know the way I break this down is I basically tell you metaphorically what the energy of that transit, that alignment really means. So think about it this way. You combine the keywords of the planet Saturn, which is delay, restriction, fear, worry, anxiety, and lessons. And you combine that with retrograde, which is to review. To review, to go back, to do it again. And Aries is motivation, irritation, impulse. So we are reviewing our motivation, our motives. What do we want? Is this really what we want, or is it not what we want? And the reason why a retrograde cycle happens is because you thought you finished this lesson. You thought you know what you want. But it turns out you're not really sure. And even if you are sure, you need more time, like more lessons, to finish that cycle of learning, so you can move on to the next lesson. That's kind of how it works with certain retrograde cycles. But that is just the surface of the transit. What it's really about is about removing the father interject from your mind. So Saturn is the father, which represents your conscience. But the part of your conscience that uses guilt and fear to motivate you into self-preservation action. Because Saturn is like your survival in Aries, right? Aries is the self, and Saturn says, oh, watch yourself. Watch yourself against attacks, against threats. Oh, they could attack you at any moment. That's kind of Saturn and Aries energy. It's very guarded. It's very defensive, which is very similar to having Saturn aspecting Mars in the natal horoscope. So if you have natal Saturn-Mars Saturn aspects, you may know a little bit about the defensiveness or the fear of retaliation. And fear of retaliation can mean that you are afraid of the consequences of taking independent action, especially impulsive action. Basically, just doing what you want. Like imagine I'm just living my life, I'm just minding my business, I just do what I want, Aries. But for some reason, some kind of older person, like a father figure, my own conscience, my own mind, or society itself is punishing me just doing what I want. Like I can't just do what I want. So if I do what I want, there's going to be negative consequences. This is what Saturn in Aries suggests. And that is why a lot of people feel so defensive. They feel like, you know what, I'm just going to mind my business. I'm not going to deal with this. I'm not going to confront the issue. I'm going to go around it. Going to avoid it. That's group one. But actually, a lot of people will also belong to group two. And this is, I do this a lot. If you've ever followed any of my previous updates, my transit videos, I do this sort of thing where I talk about two groups of people when it comes to any transit in astrology. So here, you have group one, who's just avoiding conflict altogether, Saturn and Aries, conflict avoidance, and self-isolation and hermit mode. And then there's group two, which is about, you know what, I'm just going to blow up. I'm just going to burn it all down. So I am going to do whatever I want. And if there's consequences, who cares? Because the consequences of not doing what you want are feared even more than the consequences of actually doing what you want. So group two could be people who have anger outbursts, temper tantrums, who have very antisocial behaviors. So, like socially frowned upon displays of anger, socially frowned upon ways of making boundaries, socially reprimanded ways of expressing your opinion, right? So it's like Saturn and Aries is like the placement that says, if you want an opinion, I will give it to you. So when you express an opinion and somebody says that's the wrong opinion, how dare you say that? How could you say that? Or you can't do this. You can't make the boundary. You can't defend yourself. You can't fight me. You can't be angry at me. Now, in the ideal case scenario, person number 2 will try to consolidate or be diplomatic with the person who makes boundaries, the person who throws a tantrum. If the person throwing the tantrum is lucky, very lucky, like extremely lucky, like it's very unlikely, to happen. In most cases, the person throwing the anger fit will be ghosted, blocked, dismissed, avoided, reprimanded. And this is why at the beginning of Saturn in Aries, we're really at the beginning. Saturn is going now back into Pisces, so it's going to bring back Pisces themes of self-isolation and avoidance and illusion and worry about things that are not real. While at the beginning of Aries, the way we make the boundaries, the way we assert ourselves is just very imbalanced. It's very immature. So this is why it's not a good idea to have any anger outbursts right now. If you're feeling impulsive, if you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling irritated, it's just not a good idea to act on it. It's not. If you do, you have no idea what you're doing. Chances are you don't care that you don't know what you're doing, and you're in beginner's mind. But instead of acting like a beginner, instead of acknowledging that you're insecure and clueless, you will pretend like Aries shadow that you're this big person and you know exactly what you're doing and you're asserting yourself and you're gonna get what you want and everybody should listen to you, like you're the big boss. But you're not. You're not the boss. You have no idea what you're doing. So stop pretending. Saturn and Aries at the beginning of that sign is telling you. And trust me, I've seen a lot of people right now pretending like they got it all figured out. Like, yeah, this is me, being me. No. You're trying to come out of the restrictions, but you're not acknowledging the insecurity that you have. You're hiding the insecurity. Because think about Aries as the Martian warrior. It's like a big barbarian with muscles. He's not going to acknowledge any insecurities or vulnerabilities because he's fearing retaliation so much. He's defensive. He's expecting war where there is none. And in some cases, you can meet, of course, a fierce opposition, but you need to use your discernment because our discernment is not working very well when Saturn is conjunction Neptune at the beginning of Aries. So there's a lot of projections. There's a lot of fears, a lot of worries that will never manifest. Never. So you see, your mind can really work against you in this alignment. Okay, so we're getting it. Yes? Now as Saturn is going retrograde, it's going to ask you to look at something you're still insecure about, which you really want. You want to do that, but you're so insecure, you have to overcome those insecurities first. How do you do that? I want to do something. I know this is who I am, but it's just I'm not certain if this is really who I am. Or even if it is who I am, maybe I shouldn't do it because it leads to bad consequences. Back to boot camp. Back to beginner's mind. Back to 1 degree Aries. Back to basics. Okay, if you don't know what you're doing, explore. Keep exploring. Don't pretend you got it figured out. Don't commit to one way of doing things. If you try, do it from a place of learning. Okay, I'm not sure about this, but I'm still gonna do it just because I will not know where this is going until I did it. So then you must commit to something that is you, like your real you, and you need to trust your instincts. You know, your instincts are telling you what to do. But you're split because you also got fear, you also got anxiety, you also got guilt, also got the father introject, the inner tyrant, the superego, the conscience, telling you to do the thing that is not you. Or is it? And this is the confusion that most people find right now with Saturn being conjunction Neptune. They're confused about who they are, their sense of identity. Because they've never been here. Imagine you've never been this person. But actually, you've always been this person. You've just suppressed it because the father told you, don't do that. So because you listened to the father, you didn't listen to yourself. Why? Because this is how you survive. Okay, people's survival instincts. This is all Aries energy. I just need to do the work. I just need to do more. I just need to be motivated. I just need to act, and then things will work out. And Saturn says, no blooper. You're not, if you're acting and you think that's going to get you anywhere, think again. Because Saturn is about long-term action. Well, Aries is now. Right now, maybe I want money. But what about the long-term money? Do you have any plans for long-term? And if you don't, the impulse is gonna go as fast out as it has arisen. And then you're back at ground zero. And you go back to ground zero over and over again until you acknowledge that this is not working. You can't just keep doing this. You can't just keep getting angry, keep getting frustrated, and then use that frustration as fuel because it's unsustainable. So this is why Saturn is really suspicious. You know, it's like, oh, you're feeling guilty, you're feeling fearful, you're feeling defensive, you're feeling frustrated, and this is your foundation. This is you showing up and having success in life through frustration. There is a reason why Saturn is in fall in Aries. Because Aries is a very impulse, emotion-driven sign. Saturn is not. Saturn is cold, Saturn is dry, Saturn is logical, Saturn is patient. That is why it's exalted in Libra. Because in Libra, you measure, you calculate. You're like, I'm not so sure about this. And in Libra, you deal with relationships. So you try to cooperate with people. And you ignore your instincts. You ignore your impulses. You just think strategically. And even though you do not feel like it, in the moment, like this is the right choice, you still do it. And this is where a lot of people will fail with Saturn and Aries. I think a lot of people with Saturn and Aries will just follow their instincts blindly like a chicken running in circles. Going into the same wall over and over again. Feeling frustrated that things are not progressing. Because they're forcing. So you need to stop forcing. You need to stop perceiving the will to act in the moment, impulsively, as some kind of divine guidance. It is not. It is absolutely not. But it's like, oh my God, this motivation, this frustration, this is my fuel, this is my success, I just need more of it. Who irritates me? Who to fight? Who to defend against? Who to resist? Who to rebel against? You know, like, it just wants to be in the combative frame. thinking that's going to be the way out. But it's not sustainable. Because eventually you're going to run out of steam. And Saturn is about consistency rather than it's about long term. Aries is just not. This is not compatible energy, okay? So you will feel that, of course. You will feel stifled, you know. Like your instincts are telling you to do something, but it's just wrong. It's just wrong. So what should you do? You need to go deeper. Yeah, a lot of people don't understand this, but Saturn is a very deep planet. You need to question yourself. You need to be like suspicious of yourself. The problem with Saturn Aries karma is, especially people who have natal Saturn and Aries. Listen, if you have your Saturn Aries return, if you have a natal Saturn Aries, you need to know Saturn is what you neglect in the chart. Saturn tells you, oh, slow down, Skippy. You have an impulse. You have an instinct. You are angry. You are frustrated. And the moment you listen to that is wrong. Don't listen to it. Saturn tells you, don't listen to Aries. It is not what you're supposed to do. This is a bit confusing for people. Because look back. The last 2 years. Do you remember? At the end of 2024, when North Node was still in Aries. Well, when the North Node was in Aries, it was all about following your instincts. It was all about defending yourself, fighting, making boundaries, self-expression. Just be yourself. Do what you want. And success will be given. That was enough to the Aries transit. And now Saturn and Aries is saying, hey, wait, skipper. This ends now. Like, no further, you know, like, you shall not pass, you know, like Gandalf with a Balrog. You shall not pass to Aries. Like, the ego shall not pass. So the ego can feel very weak right now. Or it's completely over the top narcissistic, ignoring all the signs of the universe that are telling you to slow down. Everything is telling you to slow down, but your ego says, no, I need to speed up. Ignore the universe. And this is not the advice to follow. Yeah, don't listen to the ego. Saturn is like ego, Aries. You know, Aries is ego energy. Ego can be very good because in ego you get things done. In ego you get what you want. In ego you protect yourself. That's the whole point. You're present. And Saturn says, yeah, that's all fine and great, but yeah, you get the message. Yeah? So I need to kind of repeat this a few times because I know anybody who's listening to this video, most people are still not gonna get it. You know, I can explain to you, Saturn wants you to ignore your ego and literally put that into the garbage bin where it belongs right now. Like, put it down. But you do not feel it. You don't want to. That's the thing. You don't want to resist the ego. You want to listen to the ego. You feel like you do. You have to. Like, I'm frustrated. I need to do something. And this is the loop. You know, this is going to be a loop. A loop means you have a repetition compulsion to do something because you think you have to do it. Saturn father god complex, narcissistic, tyrannical, introject. The false father, the false superego, the false conscience, the guilt tripper, the blame shifter, the shamer, the one who tells you you're not good enough, is making you act. That is not the foundation. In any shape or form, ever, in any universe. I don't care what universe you're in. But Saturn Aries is not this. So the shadow of Saturn Aries is using a drill sergeant, like the military, Aries is the military, who's screaming at you to do something, ignore them. Because if you listen to them, it just doesn't work. So that's the lesson. Of course, you can wait also, and you can observe and understand that what you feel like you have to do today, 2 months from now, you may not feel anymore. And this is how you know you're making progress. You know, what frustrates you today, what makes you feel defensive and fearful today, if you can put it to the back burner and just not do it, not follow the impulse, and 2 months later, you're okay with it. Everything's still fine. You're still safe. That is a sign of progress. So Saturn progress is about learning how to contain and say no to the impulse drive, to Mars energy, basically. Saturn in its essence is an antithesis to Mars anyways. Mars is the soldier, Saturn is the general or the king. Also, you could have a lot of interactions or experiences with elders or older, wise people in general, or teachers. And these teachers, these older people, are now being brought down. Okay? Their reign is ending. It's like the king, long live the king. This is what it comes to mind. I mean, this whole Saturn Aries transit, ever since it entered the sign, has been the king, long live the king anyways. It's like in Game of Thrones, when, you know, everybody's like, all the time. Like, you can watch Game of Thrones and that's Saturn and Aries. You know, anybody who thinks we got it all figured out, the old ways, we just need to keep doing them, wrong. The old ways are all wrong. What really Saturn and Aries is saying is the new way, the new beginning, the beginning that you've never done before, that your father told you not to do, is exactly what you should be doing. You interject. Your guilt, fear, your father, your authority figures, your elders, your teachers are telling you to do one thing. And Saturn is telling you, ignore all of that. So in some sense, Saturn is kind of like a rebellion against the elders, against the old rulers. And this can lead people to act very rebelliously, kind of like, how do you call it, a teenager. You know, this is like teenager energy. So I'm just going to be a teenager now. I'm just going to, you know, do my thing. And Saturn is testing, can you live with it? Can you do it? Can you keep doing what you want and be who you are successfully? Is this actually sustainable? And it's through the retrograde cycle, you're going to be able to learn that lesson, if it is yes or no. After retrograde is over, in a few months from now, then you will know. At the latest, when Saturn moves back into Aries and has a full conjunction with Neptune in February next year, that's when you know for sure if this is really your path or not. So there's a lot of crossroads energy going on right now. And we're having the Saturn retrograde right after the full moon in Capricorn. So I'm feeling like we're still in the full moon in Capricorn energy. Still going to be in the full moon in Capricorn energy until the next new moon. So look at the house that Capricorn full moon was in your chart, around 16 degrees Capricorn. Look at it. What house? Because the energies of that house is kind of what Saturn is influencing, right? So when a planet goes retrograde, look at the sign it rules in your chart. It's going to influence that house. So if you have Saturn in the first house, retrograde, that means you have Aries in the first house. But the sign Capricorn in your chart is in the ninth house. And this retrograde is going to impact your ninth house, okay? So that's where you see a change. A dramatic change, like 180-degree turn. Look at Capricorn in your chart. The house it occupies, 180-degree turn, thanks to retrograde. And you're going to learn through this house who you really are, what you really want, what's sustainable, what's long term, what's going to work, what doesn't work. In essence, Saturn just wants to get rid of something. Something that you thought you needed to do to survive. Something that you thought you needed to do to protect yourself, to defend yourself. And yeah, it just has a lot to do with internal father, narcissistic, tyrant, interject. That's the message I'm getting. Don't tell me how I know this. It's just, it's coming through. So take it with a grain of salt. But it's like the change of the guard, you know. The guard says, oh, okay, my watch has ended. You know, like in Game of Thrones. My watch has ended. After the end, you go out and you explore. And you're saying to yourself, I don't want to fight anymore. I don't want to do anything anymore. I'm done with this. And before you know it, a third party or an external event comes to you thanks to retrograde cycle. So right now. And they tell you, but you do need to fight. But you need to do something. And you're like, no, I'm done with the fighting. I'm done listening to the interject, to the father. And somebody comes along and tells you, no, you need to listen to the father now. This is extremely frustrating, you know, like, this is how Saturn tests you. Remember, Saturn in its shadow in the tower represents the devil. What does the devil do? Temptation. So you're now being tempted at the beginning of retrograde to do the thing you shouldn't be doing in the long term. Maybe in the short term, so you can find out it's not for you. I know this can be a bit difficult to hear, or maybe it's what you want to hear, because, you know, like, you were just about to finish something, and all of a sudden retrograde says, go back. And you're like, I don't want to go back, but you're like, go back. So like, you know, back and forth, back to Groundhog Day. Like, my goodness, this Saturn in Aries is 1 degree. Aries is like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I hope I'm doing it well, but I trust in the divine. So then lots of people will go into religion. Lots of people will go to cults, spiritual bypassing, toxic positivity. Oh, everything's going to be working all right. Oh, I know what I'm doing. I just need to keep doing this, while you have no clue. And nobody can tell you what to do, because the new king is you. You're the king now. The old king, new king is you. So you tell us what to do, because nobody else is there to do it. You see, Aries is also leadership. So you have to take charge now. You have to make a decision. And Saturn in Aries retrograde is like, wishy-washy, I don't know. Neptune on me, and I'm like in my dreams and illusions, and this I can do. This is the dream. Like, it doesn't really work. There's no practicality. There's no experience to back up the dream, because the dream is new. It's a new dream. Actually, it's an old dream. It's very old. It's older than your father, older than your elders, older than your ancestors. It's the original dream. But nobody else is doing it. So who you gonna listen to? Yourself? Of course not, right? So listen to the father god interject, to the guilt tripper, to the fearmonger, to all these fear messages, you know, that are very heavily coming in right now. Also remember, Neptune is a planet of paranoia, planet of anxiety, of worry, of illusions and hidden enemies, of critics. So you can be your own worst critic with this, you know, like, no, I'm not going to listen to myself. I have no clue. I need to go to religion. In the Bible, it tells me these are the commandments. This is what I've got to do. This is kind of a lot of people are right now, like these are the commandments you must follow. Don't fall for it, I like to say, yeah? There is no authority right now. There is no teacher right now. There is no guru right now. You are the guru. But you're not also at the same time because you're clueless. You're a beginner. Beginner's mind. Remember, you stay in beginner's mind and you go through the motions. You're just going through the motions. You're just going through the dark tunnel. You can't see the light yet. But there is a light. And you are making progress. And you are coming closer to the light. But you still have to sift through this. Oh, like aren't we over it already? My goodness. So February 2026, that's when we're really making the dream a reality. Like the new beginning. Remember also Johannes has turned Gemini, but it's gonna go retrograde as well. So then this is not really the new beginning. You're envisioning the new beginning. You're dreaming the new beginning. You're imagining the new beginning. Well, keep imagining. Keep looking at it. Keep thinking about it. But don't manipulate yourself into believing that you believe it, because you don't. But you still want it, right? So don't listen to anybody who's telling you to just, anybody who tells you they have figured it out right now, they have not. Okay, so just the ego absolutely does not like this energy, because the ego likes to predict things. The ego likes to know what's going to happen next. The ego likes to know we are on the right track. Everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be all right. Just follow this method. Just do this technique. Just commit to this task. Everything's going to be all right now. It's Groundhog's Day every single day. Every single day you're starting new. But you're committing to this new thing for the long term. So if you've been thinking about changing everything up 180 degrees and doing something that you've never done before, now is the time. This is the time of pioneers, of standing at the vanguard, like in Star Trek, to go where no one has gone before. And then you meet the Klingons. And then you meet the Romulans. And then pew, pew, pew. And you're in a battle for your life. I didn't sign up for this. Yes, you did. Yes, you did sign up for this, because staying in soil system, staying in what you know, is just, you're over it. It's just not working anymore. Also, maybe you face some kind of negative experiences with teachers, elders, father figures who try to guide you, but they fail. And now they're asking you for guidance. Could you imagine, imagine your father has been trying to guide you your whole life, and now he's coming to you and asking you, what shall I do? And you're just as clueless as he is. So, yeah. Okay. So that's basically it, yeah? That is the energy of this transit. So if you found this useful, if you like this video, if you like to see more of this in the future, leave a like and subscribe. If you're interested to have a natal chart reading, to understand your own Saturn placement, how this transit affects you, or just have a reading in general, so you can get on this level of understanding and insight, check out my description, check out my services on my page, my pinned post, and you know where to find me. And with that being said, thanks so much for listening, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.